Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews. Today we are going to take a look at some more Mattel figures, some newer Mattel figures, and these are the 5-inch basic figures, which can be a huge pain in the butt sometimes to get a hold of. Luckily, I have friends and viewers of this channel that are always willing to help me out, so Cristzilla from Instagram, and of course a viewer here of the channel, was kind enough to help me acquire these figures here for us to review. So a huge thank you goes out to him for helping me out when it came to getting these figures, as mostly these figures kind of show up in Kroger stores and I don't have any of them. I don't even know if there's even any in this state, so definitely don't have an option to purchase these around here. So thankfully he helped me out, and now we have these here to take a look at. And of course the ones we have are the Indominus Rex, which you can see right there on the bottom, and then the new green male Tyrannosaurus Rex. As far as the artwork goes, we have just kind of an image of Owen in blue, pretty much that same image we've had for quite a while there of those two. Here on the side, if we pick this up, we have a shot of the Indominus, and then an image here on the back showing us some of the other figures here in the line, which we also have blue, and the green Rex and Owen, because, you know, we just always have tons of Owens. And pretty much the same deal with the Rex, except now instead of the Indominus, we have the green Rex here on the side, and the Indominus here on the back. So let's go ahead, open these up, and take a look at them out of the package. So here are our 5-inch basic green Rex and Indominus figures. And honestly, both look extremely cool here at first glance. You will always notice with these 5-inch basic figures that they do have some proportion issues, as they aren't exactly that well proportioned, especially when you look at the size of the feet and the size of the tails and stuff, which you do tend to have quite often with Mattel figures, but it is exceptionally bad on the 5-inch versions. But regardless, again, both figures do look really, really cool, honestly, even if their proportions are quite off. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get a closer look at both of them right now. So with the Tyrannosaurus Rex, we have actually reviewed this figure previously, but we reviewed it with the brown female paint scheme, so we don't really need to go over the sculpt or anything. All we really need to look at is what's new as far as the paintwork goes on the green Rex. And you can see that primarily we have this very nice shade of green, which is just one solid tone. There are no other alternate green colors included. And then we have kind of like a nice dark gray, pretty much, that runs down in stripes into the palette of the Rex. You can also see a little bit of that dark gray up here on the top of the head. It's almost like a mixture of a dark gray and a black, so it's kind of like right in between. And then you can see up here on the top of the head, we start to get that kind of very cool design, almost like a striping that runs down along the entire back and spinal column of our Rex, and you can see it littered down in a few different areas, kind of spot down onto the body. As we run out to just a little bit past the hip, and then once we get to about here, it kind of disappears, and you don't see it anymore on the figure at all. The tail does not have any paint other than green on it. You can see the underside as well does not really have any other colorations, except for the lower jaw, which does have like a creamy type of a color. So of course, being basic figures, they are exactly that, really quite basic. The eye appears to be painted pretty nicely. I mean, it's not terrible, it's not really that far off or anything, and this eye actually is a little bit sloppy, but I guess it could be worse regardless. And for the most part, it's decent as far as the paintwork goes. I think it really quite nicely matches up to the larger Extreme Chompin' Rex that we had with a greenish paint scheme that kind of had that 2-pack at Target with the Juvenile Rex. So I think it's a decent, smaller version of that. You can actually see that the paintwork is kind of different here, as it litters down differently on this side than it did over here, which is really cool to see. It's nice to see difference, because I don't think it would look exactly the same on both sides. But other than that, there's really nothing going on with it. You can see that the teeth aren't painted at all, and for the most part, it's just kind of very plain, but hence the basic name. As far as the Indominus goes, now we have not looked at this one previously, and you can see that as far as the actual detailing on the sculpt of the head, it is really, really good. Quite incredible. Mattel really excels, I think, at the Indominus figures, because continuously, every time they release an Indominus, the sculpt is just off the charts. And you can really see that here. With being a 5-inch basic figure, it's almost a mini figure. And to have this kind of scale work on the head is just unbelievable. Even the teeth are really nicely sculpted out. They kind of have that crocodile type of a look to them, how they're kind of like all over the place, interlocking sort of teeth, and I think it looks really nice the way they've sculpted this with the mouth closed and everything. You can see that primarily we just have like this whitish coloration, almost like a light gray, and then we have a nice dark gray that kind of runs along up here over the eye area into the palate a little bit. This eye actually has completely missed the eye area, so that is definitely some quality control issues they probably should have sorted out, and we do tend to have this problem from time to time with Mattel figures, so we definitely have a sloppily painted eye over here. On this side, it looks a little better, but honestly not too much. It doesn't even actually look like there's a pupil going on or anything like that here. So again, a little sloppiness as far as the eye paint goes, but if you actually go back a little bit from it, you don't really notice it too much, honestly. It's not that big of a deal. If you look up here on the top of the head, even the scale work here on the top of the head looks really nice. As we run down the neck of our Indominus, you can see lots of osteoderms, as well as those really nice trademark quills that do appear up here on the top of the neck of our Indominus. Really nice scale work as we run down the length of the neck, as well as some beautiful creasing in the skin, and again, some more nice osteoderms. You have some pretty nice skin folds going on down here, as well as in general some decent detailing here in the throat area. Beautiful skin texture and beautiful scaling all over the Indominus. Really nice detailing up here on the back with those kind of big osteoderms, and you can see that the back has that same dark gray that we saw up here. It does run along the back of our Indominus. And in one really cool twist, it actually runs out onto the tail a little bit, which is nice to see because for the most part, you don't really get that with these 5-inch basic figures. So it's nice to see that they've kind of gone the extra mile with the Indominus as opposed to some of the others. And one other thing I just noticed that is really exciting, if you'll take a look at both of the feet, the green Rex here doesn't have any nail paint at all. However, our Indominus actually does. So it's got some really nicely painted toenails. So I think maybe this is trying to be like Mattel showing us that the Indominus is apparently royalty or something among them, because they kind of go the extra mile as far as the Indominus figure goes with the nail paint and paint that runs down onto the tail and stuff. So really, really cool on the part of Mattel to kind of add a little extra here to the Indominus. But you can see some very nice muscle tone here in both the calf and thigh area of our Indominus, as well as a beautiful foot sculpt. The dew claws are present. They are sculpted out there, but they are not painted, unlike these really nicely painted nails up here on the front of the feet, and there's no real sloppiness at all that I could see as far as the nail paint or anything on the Indominus goes. Beautiful detailing in both the stomach region, nice detailing here, as well as back here behind the thigh area going into the tail. Again, really nice osteoderm-like appearance all over the upper part of the thigh leading out into the tail. And then we have some beautiful sculpt as we run out the length of the tail here on the Indominus. Of course, the tail's a little bit too short in comparison to what it should be, but it's also curved, so it kind of gives off the appearance of being even shorter when you look at it from the side than it actually is. It's really not too short, but it's definitely a little bit shorter than it probably should be. And then looking at the opposing side, again, really nice detailing over here, pretty much like we just saw on the previous side. Beautiful hand sculpts on both sides. Really nice kind of quills coming off of the arm here. They pretty much hit the nail right on the head as far as the sculpt in every aspect of this Indominus. Nice elbow right there. Beautiful muscle tone there in the arm. Again, the detailing here of the stomach region is really, really nice. I'm actually quite excited to repaint the extra one of these that he had sent me, just because there's really a lot of detail kind of throughout this figure that I would love to see added with like a little nicer paint application to it to bring that detail out. And the detailing of the leg and everything looks almost the same on this side as it did on the previous side. Really beautiful as we run out the length of the tail, and you can also see the underside has some really, really nice detailing. So the Indominus is definitely a really nice version as far as this smaller 5-inch basic figure goes. As far as articulation goes, both have the same articulation, which is just in the arms, the legs, and then a swiveled tail. You'll see that same thing for the Rex with the arms, the legs, and then the swiveled tail. So the articulation isn't really that excessive. It's not like most Mattel releases, and again, being basic figures, that's kind of what you would expect. As far as the size goes, for the Indominus, he's about actually 6 inches. They're for some reason almost always called the 5-inch basic figures, but he's actually about 6 inches. Now the Rex is a little bit shorter. He's more like 5 3/4 inches, so there's kind of a mixture as far as these go, but I think the Indominus is definitely a little longer than the Rex is, and then about 2.5 inches, almost 2 3/4 inches for a height on the Indominus, and about 2.5 inches for the Rex, so roughly around the 6.5 centimeter range for the Rex and about 7 centimeters for the Indominus, and then roughly, of course, about the 15 centimeter range, somewhere in that area for both as far as a length. But for a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line next to our smaller basic figures, and you can definitely see next to these guys here that these basic figures are really quite small. Definitely approaching the minifigure size range, but a little bit larger. And honestly, for the amount of detail that they have crammed into them, I think showing you that these figures being smaller are definitely very impressive when it comes to the sculpting area. So I'm definitely a pretty darn big fan of these smaller basic figures, these 5 or 6-inch basic figures, whichever you would rather call them. I definitely think they are beautiful figures overall, just really not that great as far as the paintwork goes, but again, being basic figures, that's what you have to expect, because even the 12-inch basic figures are pretty much that same style of really kind of basic paint, basic articulation. There's not really too much going on with them, and that's exactly what you see here with these. They're basically the same thing as the larger versions, but shrunken down, although we don't actually have the larger version of a Rex or an Indominus, so we really only have these smaller versions right now of both of these. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll get a larger basic version of both of these dinosaurs at some point, but definitely really nicely done as far as these two here go. I think the green Rex really quite nicely matches up to the Extreme Chompin' male Rex that we had released a little while back as far as that green version goes, because I think the coloration is exactly the same, just with a little bit less paint and of course less articulation on this smaller one. But I think all the same detail and sculpt is honestly present on the figure, and it is really beautifully sculpted overall. Definitely a very nice representation of a Jurassic Park style Rex. And then the Indominus is also a wonderful figure. I am super psyched to see the Indominus now getting so much love from Mattel with the larger version, and now we have a Super Colossal, we have the minis, we have this 5-inch basic or 6-inch basic, whichever version you want to call it, version of the Indominus. We also have a kind of like a Primal Pal version as well, so quite a bit of love being shown for the Indominus, which is nice to see, and it's also really cool to have one here in basic form, because I actually am quite a big fan of most of the basic figures. Overall, with a less amount of articulation, kind of the mouths kept shut and everything, it just kind of more so reminds me of like a model as opposed to a toy, so I sort of like it a little more usually. However, I think I would like these more in the kind of upscaled 12-inch range, but overall I think the Indominus is just incredible as far as the amount of detail they've crammed into such a small sculpt. Once you actually get this figure and really get it up close and take a look at it, your mind will absolutely be blown overall by just how much sculpt and detail Mattel has pulled off here on such a small figure. The paintwork, of course, is really, really basic. It's just 2 colors of gray, pretty much like a light gray, almost a white, and then a darker gray, almost like a dark grayish brown in certain ways when you look at it, depending on the light. But you also do have the nails painted on the Indominus, which is definitely really nice to see as well. So there is a little bit of an extra overall with the Indominus, but honestly, both of these figures I think are fantastic and really cool, smaller basic figures from Mattel. So if you would like to pick these up, hopefully you have a Kroger near you, because that's usually where they show up the most. I know most Krogers right now have these guys in stock, so there's a pretty good chance if you do have a Kroger near you, they probably have these guys there right now. So if you do happen to head to a Kroger, make sure you pick these guys up, and also make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.